Good evening again. Hello and welcome back to Voices of Hopeless Maine, our accumulation of information about and speculation about the island of Hopeless Maine. All the stories, poetry, images, sounds of the island, trying to build up a picture of what this mysterious place is like. And my co-hosts joining me now, Tom and Nimue Brown. At least, okay. So we have one in a hand. I don't know if it's 1.5 or 1 1/3. And they'll be watching along. They haven't seen some of these things, so that should be rather fun. Anyway, we're going to kick off with something rather wonderful. This first piece we've got for you in this section, which is called Flora and Fauna, is called How It Keeps You. And it's written by Mark Lawrence, and it's read by the rather wonderful Adam Horovitz.
How It Keeps You by Mark Lawrence. The wind will sing with the mouth of an empty bottle. The rain will gather there and change its tone. An eye will look through curving glass and see a different world, warped, bathed in a different light. The same, but not the same. All this for a discarded item of glassware lost among the windswept heather of an island that has itself been lost. Imagine then how such a place might occupy itself with an empty house. Quentin Jones's foot strikes the bottle and sends it spinning away. In the fog and the gloom, he neither knows nor cares what it was. He's lost. He's tired. His hope is fading. Whoever named Lonely Lodge gave it, along with that somewhat trite alliteration, a self-fulfilling prophecy. The tall, dark house dominates a low, dark moor and has remained alone. Time has forgotten the names of those who built the place and who lived short lives beneath its mossy shingles. Perhaps it was a Jones, one of Quentin's forebears, or a Chevins, or even a Stoat or Frog. Whoever it was, their legacy fell away long before the nameplate on the distant gatepost. Whoever they might have been, no other settlers ever came to join their cause. Their singular community withered on the vine. A line of unassuming graves advanced in a mounded line across the lawn, and have long since vanished beneath encroaching bramble. Did the final scion dig her own grave? Or perhaps she just left one day, unannounced, hobbling away without locking the door, leaving the house that had sustained 3 generations as a gift to the wind and the rain, and the coiling bramble, and the watching eyes. There is on Hopeless Maine an animation that in other places is relegated to the furthest margins of vision, where imagination plays its games with the half-seen stuff that dwells on the periphery. On Hopeless, where the mist so often lingers and covers many secrets, the margins are closer. The periphery encircles what might in other places be named sanity, and that boundary is prone to shrinking, to creeping further in whenever it's not closely observed, paring away at the ever-shrinking territory where normality is wont to pace its way. It's an animation that persists a heartbeat longer than in any other place, and if it catches your attention, it may very well catch you too. It is prone to gathering in abandoned spaces, be they bottles emptied of their beer or houses peopled only by memories. It likes memories. They are its play stuff. In Lonely Lodge, when the eyes of men are turned away, which is most of the time, the table is still laid for tea every evening. The teapot is taken from its shelf, porcelain cups are filled with shadows, teaspoons dance, tendrils quest up the main stair and down into the dampness of an ill-advised cellar. No stone is left unturned. No dress remains a wallflower. Each is given their turn and their twirl. Each is filled with recollection and gets to dance to half-remembered tunes. The house is lonely, hungry for company. Its song haunts the moor, trembles in each swirl of the mist, felt rather than heard. And should a stranger happen by, a light not born of flame will kindle in some high window to lead them home. The door will creak out a greeting as it opens without a breath of wind to help. In the hearth, the ashes will remember their heat. A tablecloth will have been laid across old boards. Excuse the mildew, excuse the stains. The plates sport little but spiderweb, and the cups hold too many eyes and too many legs. But it's nothing a little imagination can't repair. Quentin Jones finds it more to his liking than the cold and foggy heath that had so confounded his sense of direction. He takes his place at the head of the table in a chair that groans beneath his weight. A wind has picked up outside, stripping away the mists and replacing them with cold rain. He'll shelter here and find his way home at first light. This, then, is the story of our island, though it is also the story of one house. Hopeless has often been the cold comfort amid storms both literal and figurative. It is the lure hung before the face of some monstrosity of the deep, a false light amid a true darkness. It beckons. The song of its sirens makes none of the promises reported in myth, and yet, even so, they come, wave-torn, battered, beyond exhaustion, washed upon its shores. And the island, like the house, will keep what it has taken. It will keep you, not with the bear trap's teeth, nor even the arachnid's clinging web, but with something more subtle and ultimately more effective. It will mire you. It will steer you with tides and currents, with opposing winds. It will dose you with lethargy, steal your resolve, curb your passions, empty you, use you, keep you. Quentin Jones will never leave Lonely Lodge. He will not be murdered. No monster will devour him. His limbs will not be chained. And yet he will stay. And you, traveler, you will not leave hopeless. For the island is like the house. It needs you. The only difference lies in the name. The lodge is lonely. The island may call itself hopeless, but it is not without hope. It's a joke, a cruel one. Hope is how it keeps you.
So there we go. That's the rather wonderful Adam Horovitz. I could listen to his voice all night. It's just absolutely beautiful. And a terrific story as well by Mark Lawrence. I think that's one of the, I think that's now one of my new favourites, I think, in terms of the lure of the island and, you know, how it keeps you there. Because there's this whole thing about how it keeps you there. It's really hard to describe, but I think that kind of nails it perfectly. Brilliant. Absolutely brilliant. Now we've got something completely different, which is the nature of Hopeless Maine, I suppose. There's full of different things. We've got a little thing which is all about spoonwalkers. So briefly, Tom and Nimue, just tell us a little bit about the spoonwalkers again and why they're called spoonwalkers.
Spoonwalkers are called spoonwalkers because the island is hard and rocky and cold, and they have tender little tentacles on which they would have to walk if they weren't able to find something to hold them away from the island and increase their stride. and spoons are what they have chosen as their preferred method of locomotion.
Because shiny.
Shiny.
So they're like a kind of weird magpie thing with some kind of... Yes, okay.
Spoon
Well,
fetch.
well, let's take a look at one, because we now have a fabulous little movie from Cliff Cumber, which is all about drawing a spoonwalker. So here we go.
Hello, my fellow hopeless maniacs. I hope you're having a wonderful day. I'm glad to be here, albeit via video, recorded video. Tom and Nimue have asked me to draw a little spoonwalker for you. You may know me from some of the Hopeless Maine role-playing games. I illustrated some of the creatures from that, and also from the Hopeless Maine blog, where I illustrated some stories of Hopeless Maine. My name is Cliff Cumber, and today I'll be working mostly digitally, but if you feel inspired to join along, pick up pen, pencil, paper, pen, crayon, tentacle, whatever you have to hand, and join in with me. Remember, just keep it loose, and just try and have some fun. Spoonwalkers are fun creatures, most of the time.
So as you can see, I'm starting off really rough here. This is in Clip Studio Paint, so there's a few digital techniques that are different from traditional, including the ability to sort of just draft these rough sketches very small and then enlarge them. In this case, you can see I'm roughing in some of the basic lines, erasing, trying to get my my bearings, and just for the purposes of this particular drawing, you can see I've been super brave and I'm just going straight in for the inking. If you're working traditionally, normally you'll want to polish up your initial lines and your draft sketch a little bit, just so that you know where you're going to be putting these ink lines. In this case, with digital inking, you don't necessarily need to do that because it's so very plastic, and you always have the ability to clean things up. And you can see here, I always start generally by putting the outlines around the figure, just to give me a sense of where things are. Very occasionally I will flip this so that which is a really great technique if you've ever been drawing, to be able to see any kind of weaknesses or imbalances or lack of symmetry in the drawing. You can see here I've turned off the blue background a little bit. This is just so that I get an idea of how my ink lines are shaping up. Here I'm spotting in some blacks. As you could tell in the original draft, I had a little note to myself. There, you can see it there. Little note to myself saying where to put the light. Now here I'm sort of, I was considering whether or not to draw my own spoons and decided against it. I went in here with one of Clip Studio Paint's really fantastic features, which is 3D objects that you can import onto your canvas. So I imported some spoons there, just to, it made it really easy to see where I wanted to put them. Here I was using a little bit of purple so I could see the back and erase on the main lines, and you can see here I'm darkening it up. I felt like it really needed dark background. Throw in a little bit of paper texture that enables me to get a sense where I'm now putting in my light and dark values. The shading, I fill it out a little bit here, then go into the eyes, put on some spatter and a little ghost smoke.
So there we go. That was drawing Spoonwalker by Cliff Cumber. So Tom, you're the expert. What do you think? How did you do?
Oh, Cliff's amazing. Yeah, I want lots more art from Cliff.
Well, I'm always amazed by anybody who could draw, because that's definitely not my thing. My thing is definitely more writing and other stuff. So yeah, so that was quite cool.
Yeah.
Now we're talking. This section is all about flora and fauna. So the next thing we're going to talk about, or we're going to feature, is another poem from Algernon, read by Craig Hallam. And this one is all about, well, it's two poems actually, but the first one is all about dust moths, which are another wonderful creature of the island.
Among the many dangers of hopeless Maine, There are creatures that will try to break someone's mind, try to steal it away, try to steal them away. And one of these dangers are dusk moths. Now, the problem with dusk moths, of course, is that they are like normal moths in that they tend to be attracted to places where people live. This next poem, called Dusk Moths at My Window, was written after Algernon came across some dusk moths while sitting on the window ledge of his loft. As I recline on window seat, where firelight battles winter's cold, this contemplating forehead rests on frozen lattice, gazing o'er the quaint thatch of my cell. Attracted not by candlelight, the dusty winged drifters come to flutter round my misery and speak to me with hushed voice that I might lean closer. Their hollow little bodies ring like dire bells against the glass. They chime to ward off fitful dreams if I should heed their promises to take my sorrowed mind. On what midnight excursion might these hollow little preachers bear a mind that I thought long since lost, if I release it to their care, like some betrothed bride? I fumble with ensorcelled hands at casement latch my last defence. Out wafts my melancholy will, accompanied by sweet incense bought from a sublime witch. Dispersing with a shattered screech, the moths scatter unto the night, returning, thwarted whence they came. Their glamour leaves this ailing mind, and I am left to grieve alone. See how dangerous hopeless can be? Now, speaking of Algernon's mind, his grip on reality has always been tenuous at best. Algernon's well aware of this, and so he often writes poetry about it. This poem is called My Mind. I don't remember where I lost it. It must be somewhere here, for nothing that comes can leave. Was it the horrific tinkle of bottles that drove it to leap from the bridge and be spirited away on the river's surge? Did I leave it where sea and shore stare battle ready, daring one another to encroach on this isle-bound stalemate? Could the floral tea of the pale graveyard dwellers have melted it along with the honey? Or did it evaporate upon seeing the depths of my belladonna's eyes when I succumbed to love's sweet atrophy? I don't remember where I lost it. It must be somewhere here, for nothing that comes can leave.
There we are.
That is beautiful.
Two nice poems there.
Gorgeous, gorgeous.
Excuse me. So some of these, as we know, a lot of the creatures on Hopeless Maine are deadly. Some of them are, very unfriendly, but some of them are rather lovely, and some of them are loving, and some people love them and express it in the form of a song, apparently. So yeah.
Then the tide brings us back here once more. Star-crossed starfish lovers cast up on the shore, amidst things that are broken and washed up and drowned, scattered unwanted and strewn all around. Still I find you aren't quite out of reach. Here we are once again on this beach. How can we go forwards? Sweetest love of my heart. 5 arms in 5 directions. Anatomy keeps us apart. Then the tide brings us back here once more. Star-crossed starfish lovers cast up on the shore, amidst things that are broken, and washed up and drowned, scattered unwanted, and strewn all around. Still I find you aren't quite out of reach. Here we are, once again, on this beach. When we're apart, I dream of you. I'd call out your name if I could. A starfish can't shout, we just mumble. And none of it does any good.
No.
Then the tide brings us back here once more. Star-crossed starfish lovers, cast up on the shore, amidst things that are broken, and washed up and drowned, scattered unwanted, and strewn all around. Still I find you aren't quite out of reach. Here we are, once again, on this beach. I'd give you my bony ossicles. I'd take all your arms in my arms. We could extrude our stomachs together. Oh, darling one, show me your charms. Then the tide brings us back here once more. Star-crossed starfish lovers, cast up on the shore, amidst things that are broken, and washed up and drowned, scattered unwanted, and strewn all around. Still I find you aren't quite out of reach. Here we are, once again, on this beach. I'd bring you the pearls of these waters, bright shining lumps of sea glass, fragments of bone, horns of gramophone, a light from a dead sailor's eyes. Then the tide brings us back here once more. Star-crossed starfish lovers, cast up on the shore, amidst things that are broken, and washed up and drowned, scattered unwanted, and strewn all around. Still I find you aren't quite out of reach. Here we are, once again, on this beach. Sometimes we cling to a boulder. The sea comes in and goes out. Sometimes we are torn from each other, to languish in fear and doubt. Then the tide brings us back here once more. Star-crossed starfish lovers, cast up on the shore, amidst things that are broken, and washed up and drowned, scattered unwanted, and strewn all around. Still I find you aren't quite out of reach. Here we are, once again, on this beach. Love is the tide that we swim in. The drops are so often on land. Fate brings us back to each other, as as we slowly dry out in the sand. Then the tide brings us back here once more. Star-crossed starfish lovers cast up on the shore, amidst things that are broken and washed up and drowned, scattered unwanted and strewn all around. Still I find you not quite out of reach. Here we are once again on this beach.
Wow, that was lovely. Absolutely lovely. And now we've got two more poems from Algernon, as read by Craig Hallam.
Another of the many strange creatures of hopeless Maine is the succubus wasp. Now, I'm sure you've seen the depictions of the succubus wasp before, but Algernon likes to describe things instead. So here is a poem called Flight of the Succubus Wasp. In all the beautiful colours of festering, the succubus wasp hangs on the air, legs dangling like hope. It regards the world with my mother's eyes, it calculates and targets. I avert my gaze from the sunset light fractured through stained wings of glass. With glistening barbs it latches, ripping its way in with a shiver of comfort from the warmth near your spine. This hunter does not slay the chaste. It thrills in the lingering of the ambulant sufferer's soul, in this bastard act of dark becoming. What is worse? To see the fall of one you've known, to meet the terms of grief as mortality intends, or to lose them in all but the flesh, forced to avert your gaze from the rigor smiles and stained eyes of glass. You should probably avoid succubus wasps. They're not very nice. Now, covering more of the wildlife of hopeless Maine, as Wordsworth would hope that Algernon would, we come to Teaselheads. Now, it's not really certain whether Teaselheads are Flora or Fauna, but this is how Algernon describes them and the effect they have. Dance of the Teaselheads. The bayou broils with raw-tossed silt like sandstorms under muddy glass, and I know not what churns the deep, nor dare I peer too close. For, from the dark and murky spots of which this isle is chiefly made, such abject terrors issue forth that make a soul run cold. And yet, above the waterline, occurs a dance so fatal sweet, a foxtrot sway in swathing hordes to memorize with joy. Their pin-prick eyes, like motes of pain, are fixed within their barbed heads, and frond-like limbs do scratch and beg pity from the passers-by. This bitter beauty smothers me. I rest unwilling on the banks and could do nothing but regard a spectacle of flight. With bare a thought for self or kin, the Teaselheads rip from their stems, threads of themselves left hanging as they hook the wind. They rip free from their pond-side moor, like dandelion seeds on the swarm. I thank the wind that carries them far away from where I sit. For those who think teasels benign, despite their hooks and glowing eyes, please mark my words and fear the sign when Teaselheads take to the sky.
So there we go, two poems about some of the dangerous flora and fauna of hopeless Maine. One of the other things which I think the jury might be out whether it's dangerous or not is a dustcat, and we're going to hear from Tom and Nimue in a bit about what dustcats are and a little bit about an upcoming project. But first, how do we introduce dustcats? Well, I think the best way is probably with the song. So here's a song by Fergus Ryan, and it's called, if I get this right, Of Moon and Dustcat.
leading me hopelessly on through the rivers and trails of this life, leading me hopelessly on through the mountains and vales of this life. How strange those eyes that glow with recockulous mischief and guile, as the full moon that shines upon this whispering and ancient isle. Was it a dream long ago? Adrift on the sea, I found a new home, heard the song which you howl across this whispering and ancient isle, leading me hopelessly on through the rivers and trails of this life, cleansing with your feline song the memory dust of my mind, leading me hopelessly on through the mountains and vales of this life, cleansing with your feline song the memory dust of my mind, my mind. Dust of my mind. On the chair, dust behind the sofa, and by the fire at home, in the hearth where the ashes are blown, through the casement I am entranced by the moon, and I know that your love and your smile more mystery holds than pale humankind. Stay with me and meow across this whispering and ancient isle, leading me hopelessly on through the rivers and trails of this life, cleansing with your feline song the memory dust of my mind, leading me hopelessly on through the mountains and vales of this life, cleansing with your feline song the memory dust of my mind, of my mind.
So there we go. Of Moon and Dustcat by Fergus Ryan.
Wonderful.
That was a song. A little bit
Yes.
of help. Little bit of help from me on the visuals there, with illustrations by Tom Brown, of course.
Done, sir.
So tell us a little bit about this long-term project, which is the movie. So tell us a little bit about the movie.
Right. So the movie is something that started because Nimue and I were watching black and white silent films, and we saw the similarity between the storytelling method of a silent film and comics. And I thought, oh, wouldn't it be interesting if The Blind Fisherman were to be a silent film, treated as a silent film? And so I went on social media and I said, wouldn't that be interesting? And Gregg McNeill came back and said, yes, it would, and here's how we do it. So we've got Gregg McNeill and an ever-increasing crew and cast, and we've got everyone now at this point. And we've got a studio to have it filmed at. And sometime this year, it's all going to happen. And we've got Walter Sickert and the Army of Broken Toys on the score. Yay, because I can't imagine anyone else doing that at all ever. And the last piece of the puzzle was that many of the stars of the film are not actually human beings. There's a young mermaid creature, and the Dustcats and the other creatures of the island can't actually be, sort of actors in suits. You need to have them made. And so John Bassett, who co-wrote the script and was also in the film, introduced me to Martin Hayward-Harris, who is an award-winning wildlife sculptor. Just stunning work. If you go to hopelessmaine.com, I will put up a process on this that will.
Yeah. Well, let's just see something, and I'll let you talk us through what we're seeing. So I'm going to try and get this right and make sure you can talk over the top of this.
Okay.
So you should be good to go.
Right, go. So I started getting progress shots of this. Martin actually had out of wood, and then working to get the eyes. The eyes are going to actually glow. Then how are the arms going to work? And would they have joints, or would they just be loose and almost tentacular like they are in the drawings? And Martin's realized that, of course, that they did have to be able to swoop and move like this. And so this is the first test film that we have of the Dustcat showing off his claws. The head will move independently of the rest of the body, and there'll be like a suit that will cover the body and the arms of the Dustcat. But this is the first puppet of the film in progress, and we're pretty much speechless and amazed.
The modelling of the head is just wonderful, and
Martin is amazing.
Matches the illustrations well. So yeah, so that's I really like that very much. So we're going to move on. So the film is something to look out for. So check on the Hopeless Maine blog for progress on that and updates and so on. There will be loads coming up, I'm sure, over the year. But next we're going to hear again from Algernon, and this time it's a couple of odes.
The next poem is a simple ode to Hopeless. Algernon likes writing odes. It makes him feel like he's a proper poet. So here is an ode to Hopeless. O Hopeless, home to the lost, land of the free for that which should be chained, where fatal visions roam unbidden, where buried is not forever. O Hopeless, where sanity weighs but a whisper, those who live carry shipwrecks in their hearts, those who escape leave their bodies behind. O Hopeless, where destiny stows away to wash up beaten on ragged shores, Pomola's voice bids me stay, my direst home from home. Now, in his time on Hopeless Maine, Algernon has only really made one friend, and that's his Dustcat Pulvis. Even then, it's mostly because Pulvis already lived in the loft where Algernon now stays, but still, Algernon considers him a close friend. And so this is an ode to Pulvis. Beneath my chamber's skirts purrs my Aranos friend. I found him here, sweet Pulvis, a gift. Out floats he all dusty, seeking my ankles this cloud of skin that leaves grey streaks on black. Slowly he blinks his holes, kneading my knee with vaporous paws, sneezes come from love. On my lap, curled bastion, Pulvis coughs a purr at pocket's depth, I hunt fresh lint treats. O Pulvis, throughout hell you've been my most diligent allergen, my mewling muse in reverie, my granular companion. There's a lot of love there.
So two lovely odes there from Craig. And now we're going to move on, and we mentioned Gregg McNeill in terms of the movie just now. So he's he does all sorts of things with photography, and let him explain as he shows you something rather special with the Spoonwalker.
name's Gregg McNeill. A lot of you may know me from my dark box tintype portrait experience at various events. I'm a photographer and filmmaker, and I specialize in Victorian-era photographic processes. I want to welcome you to the Hopeless Maine Online Festival. And as part of my ongoing collaboration with Hopeless Maine, I made this image of a Spoonwalker. Now, the story of this video starts way back when I was having a conversation with Tom about making some images of some of the creatures from the Hopeless universe. I thought that the Spoonwalker would be a really great fit, so he got a hold of Herr Doctor, who sculpted one up and sent it to me. And my original idea was to put the creature under a giant glass cloche, like a bell jar at a museum, but I couldn't find one big enough. Right about this time, I had been reading a photographic manual from the 1800s, and they had a little portion in there about trick photography, and I thought, oh, that's perfect. I'll put the creature in a jar. So that's how that started. But in the video, I also wanted to tell the story of the Spoonwalkers and their origins. And when I got a hold of Nimue, she said that their history hadn't yet been written, and she would write up something specifically for this video, and I really love how it turned out. What resulted is this charming series of salt prints of the creature, as well as an origin story. So why don't we check that out? First, I'll frame up and focus on the jar. And then I'm going to trace the image of the jar onto the ground glass with this dry erase marker. What I'm doing here is a form of trick photography that has been practiced since the Victorian era. It's a simple double exposure. As long as I can keep the registration of both exposures, this should work out just fine. I'll prepare the plate in the normal way, coating with collodion, soaking in silver nitrate, and then loading the plate into the holder. Once I make the first exposure of the jar, I'll close the holder and reframe the shot with the Spoonwalker inside the tracing of the jar and make the second exposure. Just what is a Spoonwalker, I hear you ask? I think it's best to let Nimue Brown explain that. She's broadcasting from far away Hopeless Maine.
For many years, debate raged on the island of Hopeless Maine about whether a creature exists who steals spoons. For some it was pure superstition and a lazy explanation for not being able to keep your cutlery under control. There remains a widespread belief that haunted cutlery dances about in the night and leaves home of its own volition. It is a terrible omen to have all of your spoons disappear, and foreshadows a period of great misfortune and having to slurp soup straight from the bowl. This is a dangerous situation to be in because you may not see what is lurking in the soup. It was Frampton Jones, the only journalist for the island's only newspaper, who first championed the idea of the Spoonwalker. He claimed to have seen the small creatures who steal spoons and to have solved the mystery of spoon catches. It is exceedingly good luck to find a small pile of spoons hidden in your home, shed or workshop. Frampton observed the creatures using spoons as stilts and coined the name Spoonwalkers to describe them. Citizens of Hopeless seldom bother naming the odd and various life forms they encounter. Usually they just shout at them. Loud obscenities either drive creatures away or it enrages them into action, and either way, names don't help much. Frampton Jones established that Spoonwalkers gather spoons to make nests for their young. Every infant Spoonwalker will need 4 spoons to get about on. Frampton postulated that Spoonwalker parents know they are going to need a lot of spoons, but are incapable of multiplying the number of eggs they have laid by 4, and so gather as many spoons as they can and hope for the best. After the hatching, leftover spoons are abandoned at the nest site. It is not, as had previously been believed, the work of a spoon fairy leaving gifts of spoons for people to find. Spoonwalkers are shy, reclusive creatures and tend to come out at night. However, they sometimes get overexcited when they find themselves in kitchens. This can result in clattering noises, which may disturb the sleeping household. The trouble is there is no way of knowing if there are a couple of spoonwalkers having a bit of a dance with your cutlery, or whether a demon is taking corporeal form by pulling together whatever is lying around. As it is best not to disturb a demon who is self-assembling, only very drunk people ever report seeing spoonwalkers dancing at night. What did spoonwalkers do before there were spoons on the island? Their bodies are soft. Their tentacles might otherwise be used for dragging their delicate flesh over the cold, hard, unforgiving ground. Clearly, this is no way to live, although it is easy to imagine that their mournful faces are somehow the consequence of generations of soft bodies dragged mercilessly over the island's harsh terrain. Before the spoons, there were sticks. Of course, the island has a lot of sticks, so you might wonder why a creature would give up such a plentiful supply of stilts in favour of scavenging for spoons. But spoons tend to be all of a size with each other. The spoonwalker cannot break sticks to get the right length, and finding a really well-matched pair of sticks, like in weight and length, is no easy task. And then, those perfect sticks will not last. The island is a damp place. Water will inevitably get into the wood, and the wood will rot. And when you are running for your life, a sudden breaking of stick can be your death. Spoons do not break, and many a spoonwalker has escaped being eaten by a glass heron for just this reason. There is also the shiny factor. You will never see a spoonwalker with dirty spoons, at least you won't unless at that moment it is fleeing through mud from something that means it harm. Spoonwalkers lovingly polish their spoons using leaves to clear away the dirt, licking the spoons and rubbing them to make them shine. There isn't much on the island that naturally shines with the lustre of polished cutlery. It appears that the spoonwalkers have fallen in love with shiny metal. And so if you wake at night and hear a soft zeeboo, zeeboo sound from within the darkness of your home, it is likely the sound of a spoonwalker who has stolen one of your socks and is huffing gently to itself as it polishes the spoons you will never see again.
But what was normal?
Hey, thanks for joining me for this little glimpse into Victorian photography. If you'd like to see more videos like this, you can check out my Patreon at patreon.com/darkboximages. If you'd like to purchase a print of the Spoonwalker, you can get a hold of me on Facebook at Darkbox Images Ltd, on Patreon, or you can email me at gbmcneil@darkboximages.com. I really want to thank Tom and Nimue for their help with this collaboration. It's such a joy to be part of the Hopeless Maine canon, and I'm really looking forward to doing more work with them in the future. Thanks for joining me. We'll see you again soon.
There you go.
That was beautiful.
Yeah, very nice and fascinating to see all those amazing techniques. Gregg's an absolute master at all that stuff. He does amazing photography and salt prints. And if you get a chance to catch him at one of the events he's at over the next year, hopefully we'll have some more events. He does some amazing portraits, absolutely stunning portraits.
Yeah, he did a ominous folk portrait of the four of us, which we love.
I think you use that quite a bit. So we like to see that, yeah.
Yes, we do.
So we're gonna like I say, we're splitting this up into hours. So we're going to have one more thing, and then we're going to take a break, and we'll be back at 7 o'clock with a section called People and Places, which will be all about people and places of Hopeless Maine. And if you want to know what's happening or what's going on, the schedule is posted up on the event page, so you should be able to see it there. In all its glory, and we're trying to stick to it. I think we have managed so far, so that's all good. Just to finish off this little section, we've got a couple of poems again from Algernon, as read by Craig Hallam.
Now, another location on Hopeless which does seem set in place, unlike others which move around, is the Bridge of Bottles. This is somewhere that Algernon visits often, and so he wrote a poem about it, called simply The Bridge of Bottles. I stand on crumbling overpass and stare into arthritic flow of hopeless own river Styx and wonder why I was chosen. Of all the ships in all the seas that brave the waves 'tween here and home, why did my wreckage break upon this labyrinthine wonderland? This bridge, it bears me shore to shore like some gangplank 'tween death and life. Unsure am I when middlemost the old hunchback is at his height. My fate, I thought, lay far from home, where rugged landscapes might ignite my poet's soul or introduce a muse that I was yet to find. And far from London's critic eye, where words bore barbs that tangled art, might I cultivate my dreams, reaching the new world's brave of heart? No. I stand on crumbling overpass and stare into arthritic flow. I listen to the bottles clink and miss the life I've never known. He's a happy kind of fella. Now, if any of you have seen the artwork of the mermaid that haunts the shores of Hopeless Maine, one of the many creatures that do so, then you might have also heard of the mermaid song. Now, the Hopeless Mermaid song is a very special kind of sound that you don't get anywhere else, and Algernon made an attempt to describe it. This poem is called The Mermaid Song. Where beachcombers scratch at the sand that hems this diabolic isle, I think of the last time I heard such a sound as the mermaid's song. Cigar smoke and bitter harumphs of billowing old bourgeoisie clogged my eyes, my ears, and my lungs when I heard the sound before. The gramophone's hiss underlaid a soft and wordless melody, drowned by the clatter and bluster of 30 drunken denizens. I experienced it that night. In some drawing room of my youth, the sounds were sewn together when the needle scratched across the song. A rip of discordant agony, the wet rattle of tar-filled lungs, the sound of bellows on the sag, and a songbird hanged in lament. Where beachcombers scratch at the sand that hems this diabolic isle, I think of the last time I heard such a sound as the mermaid's song. And so with that description, I'm sure that you can understand why people tend to avoid the mermaid of Hopeless Maine.
So there we go. Two lovely poems from Craig there. We're going to take a break now, and we'll be back at 7 o'clock with the next section, which is all going to be about the people and places of Hopeless Maine. What do we know about them? I'm not sure, but we'll find out. Catch you later at 7 o'clock.